Of course, the question has to be asked, what is foul speech? And who's going to decide it? What is foul speech and who's going to decide it? Can I keep this really simple? I'll give you two examples right now. Here's an example of the difference between borderline speech and foul speech. First example, that green person is dumb. That's just a careless comment. Next example, green people are usually dumb. That's a prejudice statement. The next one, all green people are dumb. That's a bigoted statement. Now, you're sitting right there and I'm sitting right here. It is not difficult to distinguish among those. But if you're still nervous about the idea, why don't we come up with an app? We've got an app for everything else. That means when you're typing or when you're posting, if something is bigoted or something may be prejudiced, it comes up redlined, it comes up underlined. And if you insist on posting it, it continues to be underlined and opens the door for you to be fined. How do we determine what is bigoted or prejudiced? Anything that goes against no one is better than anyone else infringes on the rights of other people. If we really cared about this, we could work on it. But we have a systematic race problem in this country, not because we have a race problem, but because systematically we ignore it. Systematically we say, freedom is too important to impinge on it, to infringe on it, to abridge it. And we go around feeling sorry for ourselves over the possibility of being controlled. Yet, when it became obvious that litter was destroying our countryside, we got rid of littering. When we realized we could save 15,000 lives by putting on seatbelts, we made them mandatory. And then, a matter of legality in this country, how many lives would be saved this year in America if racism was treated the same way? How many people would be free of hurt? How much intelligence would we grow in if we knew we weren't allowed to say careless, prejudiced, and bigoted things? This is an essential part. If we're going to sit around and say, well, I want to know who's going to decide to say, let's get nobody to decide. Let's let the machines tell us from our own apps that we're speaking incorrectly. Let's let that be the case. Let's run it through a computer. We do everything else. Why not this? What would stop us from doing that? Unless it's systematic racism, unless we're afraid to admit in the beginning that we are racist. And we've been racist for a long time. We were raised by racists. And we're in a country that thinks racism is at least worthy to fall under the First Amendment. It's not. All forms of speech are free, except that which is not fair. And that speech becomes foul. And when it's foul, we need to change it, just like we did with the littering, just like we did with the seatbelts. We need to come up with that app. And when we do, systematic racism will finally be challenged. Happy Juneteenth.